Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Hopelessly Gifted podcast. My name is Mark Talaga. I have a very exciting guest today, a very exciting episode. A lot of what we're going to be talking about today is what it really means to carve your own path in life, what it means to try to figure out what it is that you're trying to do in your life that's specific to you that may be invalidated or come against some resistance from other systems. And I think our guest will be a great example of how one might do that. He is an Emmy-nominated writer and producer, creator of The Pradeeps of Pittsburgh, which premiered as the #1 TV comedy on Amazon. Please welcome Vijal Patel. Vijal, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I want to jump right into getting to know you a little better. I know a little bit of your background, but for the people at home that haven't met you yet, tell us a little bit. How did you get started in writing, producing, getting a show on the air?
Well, that all started with a pretty major left turn in my life. I went to school. I went to the University of Pennsylvania for finance and engineering, and I loved it all. I love math. I love science. I'm Indian. That's in our genes. That's not even racist. That's just biology. And um, I I accepted a job at Goldman Sachs. I was shopping for suits. I was ready to move to Manhattan to be an investment banker. And my best friend in college, who was like my arbitrarily assigned roommate that I became best friends with, he called me maybe a week before I was about to move to New York, and he goes, Vij, you know what you should do, and this is going to sound crazy, is you should be a comedy writer.
What?
And yeah, that's almost exactly what happened. And I was like, and the thing about it, Mark, is in my mind, I didn't say what I said. Yes, that's what I should
Wow.
do. Yeah.
Now, that's okay. First of all, how do you think, you knowing your friend, how do you think he knew to say that to you?
We became like brothers at college. He's like, he's this Jewish kid from Cleveland. I'm this Indian kid from Pennsylvania. And we became such good friends right away because we had the same taste in music and culture and everything, and in humor. So we had a radio show in college that we would do, and we would just like yuck it up. And he goes, Veej. And what happened is he was an English major and he took a screenwriting class and he got like bit by the bug. So he moved to LA before I did and became like a development assistant. And he goes, he wanted to be like a college professor. And he goes, no, this is what I want to do. And he said to me, he goes, Veej, all you ever do is you kind of like sidle up to people at parties and just tell them 20-minute stories at a time that are just funny. That's what you do. And he realized that's what TV comedy writing is all
Wow.
it is a bunch of people who are very good at that thing of translating funny anecdotes from their life or characters, or even recounting something that's boring, seemingly boring, but you do it in a funny way. And that was it. And that's been what I've been doing my whole life. So I took a shot.
And so that just clicked for you. When
I
you
lost you
heard it,
again.
you thought, "Oh yeah." So what
I think I
what kind
lost you
of
again.
impact did that have? I mean, you already had the suits, you already had the,
Uh,
you're looking for places to live. What kind of impact did that have in the moment for you?
this is a bummer.
All right, I'm back.
All right. Yeah. So
I figured it out.
you figured it out. Okay, great.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. This is
No, it's okay. We're going to pick up we're going to go right to the middle. So, yeah, I'll pick up with the question, then you just take it from there.
great.
All right. And okay, we're still recording anyway. Okay. So when that clicked for you and you were in the middle, you already had your suits on and everything, you were ready to find a place and start your job at Goldman Sachs. What happened in that moment? How did that change things?
It changed almost everything. Like, and this sounds like an over exaggeration. It changed where I was going to live, where I was going to start my life. I was New York versus LA, like really like that. It changed my relationship with my future, which my future was incredibly certain. I was going to be an investment banker in Manhattan. That is I mean, it's a terrible like slog, but there's certainty. Investment banks don't go away. I mean, in general. Um,
Right.
and it's a career, it's a lifelong career, and I was now, I mean, it couldn't be more stable. Like American, finance in America is just, it's always here. I was trading that for a complete lottery ticket in art, right? Like that was it couldn't have been more of an upending of my life than it
Man.
was. And I think the thing that gave me the most resolve was how quickly the decision came to me. And I'm not somebody who jumps to, like I'm an engineer by trade. I think about it, I look at it, and I'm like, no, this is an instinctive gut thing of, I don't liken myself to Einstein, but it's like E equals MC squared. There's a simplicity in it, and I'm like, oh no, this is it. Um, and I did that. That's what it was. So
Wow.
it changed everything, though.
Oh my God. Yeah, it must have. I mean, and so on some level, that was there all along, you could say. That
Hmm.
sense of yourself as being more creative or artistic. And it was just like it clicked in that moment. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How did the people in your life outside of your friend, obviously, how did they react to this decision?
Some were like, "Yeah, that makes sense." Actually, almost everybody said that makes sense because they knew who I was. They
Mm,
were, I think, I would say the gamut of not alarmed but shocked that I did it. Yet at the same time, it it envious that I was doing it. That I'm like, "Oh wow, you're taking a big chance. That's kind of cool." My parents were the biggest obstacle, and talking about systems that kind of oppose you, and their whole thing was like, I already told them I think this is a bad idea. I beat them to the punch. I'm like, I don't think this is a good idea. I wouldn't encourage this in my child. I would not be proud of me if I was doing this, but I have to do this.
hmm
And their response was simply, well, we too agree it's not a good idea. They weren't like, they couldn't, you know what I'm saying? In a way, I already used their argument, not against
Yeah,
them,
well,
but
you were attaching yourself to like, okay, I know where you're going to come from, and I'm not going to dismiss that. I'm actually
right.
with you. Yeah, that's a great way to bring it up.
It is, and I guess it's almost that thing that it's almost applicable in life. It's they just want to be heard, and they probably also wanted to be obeyed. And I agree with them. I would want them to. I would, for my kids now, I'm like, no, no, you need to obey me on this one because you don't have the long game vision. And so their advice was, look, if after a year you're not making any progress, you know, and I told them, look, I'll work whatever jobs I need to make my own way. And if after a year I'm not making any progress in the direction, it doesn't have to be success, just
Right.
that rise. If you're not feeling that rise, then be honest with yourself. And I said, deal. That's a great deal. And that's how I approached it too. Is if within a year I didn't make any sort of progress towards my goal, which is so far from me and so foreign to me, then uh, I would turn back to the the riches of Wall Street.
Yeah, right.
Um,
The secure thing, the
the
thing that's
secure,
not going anywhere. Yeah, right.
right?
Do you ever think about if you had taken the other path, if your friend never called you, like what your life might have been like or what that would have been like for you?
All the time, all the
Yeah.
time. I really think about it all the time, not as an exercise in what if. It's more of a exercise in who I would have been, which
Mm,
in a way it informs my writing. Is, well, I could write that character, and I've done that before. I've written that character into projects that have sold. I'm like, I will write the other Vijal, the sliding doors, because that is a person who a person with a good heart in Wall Street, which Wall Street was that movie, but I'm like that idea, or somebody who's like an engineering brain dad. I look at that character and I put it in these situations that are everyday life, and so that's what I draw from. Um, and to the point of like, I also did like that career. I didn't run
Right.
away from finance. I ran towards writing, and that's a
Oh,
difference.
that's cool. And weirdly, you found a way to still have an attachment to that identity, to that path, by using your own creative abilities to, vicariously through the character, have some connection to it. I think that's a brilliant way to go about it. So, well, go ahead. I feel like I interrupted you.
I was going to say it's one of the things, and now I use it every day as a producer, right? As an executive producer, your whole thing is you're managing essentially a small corporation with a show. It has like a multi-million-dollar budget. You have business centers, you have cost centers, you have budgets to kind of figure out what the trade-off is. You have timelines, deadlines. You have Gantt charts. Everything I learned in finance and accounting and engineering has come, like, I mean, not tangentially into play, like directly into play in being,
Wow.
executive producing my own series, where I have to be creative, but I also have to produce it and make it come to life. Working with these giant corporate partners, which is what it is, right? I have limitations that are imposed upon me by the studio or by the network, and how do I negotiate that?
Wow. Well, it sounds like it makes you a perfect EP. I mean, that's that's the ideal. You want somebody a little rooted in the logistics of everything just as well as the creative vision and the force to make it happen. That's
Yeah.
cool. All right. So, what do you think it is about you in particular, just your sense of self, that if you didn't have this characteristic or trait or awareness, it would have been much more difficult to make a decision like that?
I think it's self confidence in the task at hand, or in the path you're going down. I think tentativeness is almost the nothing kills you more than hesitation, and
Hmm.
I mean that, like, if you approach a big swing cautiously, it's you're not going to connect with the ball or whatever it is. It's just the nature of the beast. There almost, like, it needs to be a sense of delusion, and I mean this is. I think I was deluded enough, but I knew I had the talent enough. I did. You do need to know that you have talent. Like, I know people laugh at what I say. I know that. I don't have in stand up comedy, you call it laugh ears, where you think people laugh way more at your joke than you do.
I
I
never
have
heard that
some,
term, but
like,
yeah, I get that. Yeah.
right. It's like a beer goggles situation where it's like
I am killing it up here. Are you?
that's yeah. I've seen that happen, by the way.
Uh-huh.
People come off like, dude, that, oh my god, I killed it. I'm like, not one laugh, not one laugh, man. So, but you need delusion and confidence, which is like such a rare, Oreo to put together. But you do need it. You need both, and I think I had an overabundance of confidence that let me take this route, and then just enough delusion. But I think that's important, and that's almost like I look back on my family who immigrated here, and I look back at my parents, and I'm like, oh, I learned it from that. I really did, because I'm like, nobody detonates their world more than immigrants do. Like, whether
Hmm.
yes, many people have to come here because they're fleeing civil war, and that's a separate category of immigrant. That's awful, refugees. But an immigrant who had an okay life that just decided to completely give that up for a pursuit of a possibly better life, which is many immigrants. They're not coming from just disease and pestilence. They're coming from an okay life in Germany or Italy or Russia or whatever, or India or Japan, and they just want a better life here. Um, that takes a little bit of delusion and courage that almost is like, wow, why would you make that choice? And they did.
Right.
So I kind of got
Well,
it from my parents.
Well, and that's important to know too, because sometimes the systems that maybe push back on a direction or something is also you're like, I'm basically doing what you just did, right?
Right.
Like there's a lot of similarities that cross over. Um, but I think that's just so cool. And after watching the Pradeeps of Pittsburgh, which is a fantastic show, and if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. A lot. I mean, that seems to be a core tenet of why you wrote that show. Is that fair to say?
Very much so. It was a celebration of an immigrant story and an exploration of immigrant story of people who are trying to get a better life that aren't coming from the worst life. It's funny. The examples I use are like Germany and Russia, and which are like places where people have fled from just terrible stuff. I'm talking about modern day Germany and Russia.
Oh, sure. Yeah, right. We're not going historic. Yes. Yeah, I got you.
It's like, wow, do you think people from Germany immigrated here under like, I want a better storefront? That's not what I meant, guys. And I want you to leave that clip in so people realize that this is the punchline.
Yeah, no, we have to have the context. Yeah.
Right. But yes, I haven't seen the immigrant story of like, no, they came here for a slightly better life, which is such a true, and it's the bulk of modern immigration is this. And I haven't seen that story, so I wanted to do that story because that is one of those stories where when they show up, they know what they're getting into, and when things go wrong, they're not like, what is America? What is baseball? It's not that.
Right.
It's this other version of it. And at the same time, I just, those characters, it's fish out of water, but it's, it just, and those specific characters, I wanted to tell the story of my family moving from, Ahmedabad, India to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is a pretty stark contrast.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And it's curious because, you bring up the culture and the idea that we're moving for a slightly better life. But at the same time, I'm also getting the sense that each individual person on the show, and even just for yourself, had something that they wanted for themselves. Is there a cultural barrier to being able to say that, like, I want to do this because it's who I am and I feel like I have to do this? Or is it have to be put in the context of we're doing this because as a family things will be better?
Are you saying cultural context specifically to Indian culture?
Sure, yeah. Speak to that, yeah.
I think there is. I think there's a little bit of, in the Produce of Pittsburgh, there is a little bit, each character gets to shine a little bit more. Their inner light gets to shine a little more brightly in America. And that there is truth to that. America is a society of individuals. Yes, it's a collective, but nothing is praised high, put higher than the individual in America, which worse, like in China, it's all about the collective. And we will move a city of 200 million to make a dam overnight. Right. There's no ACLU or like appeals court because you can't move my house. It's like, no, it's all eminent domain. But so letting those characters who have these individual goals, like I want to be more, romantically or feminist free. I want to be more emotionally free. I want to be a garbage man. I want to pursue these pursuits, the American dream. I like that. I like that about America. I love that about America, I'll be honest. And so that's a great way to take 5 characters from the same family and see their own individual pursuits. And then, some characters who had a pretty good life, a better life in India, now have a worse life. So to see that contrast within one family,
right?
The mom had an awesome life in India, and now she's completely upended it for her husband's personal ambitions, which they are personal ambitions, they're business, but it's a personal ambition,
Right.
So, and that comes from my real life, that my dad had this personal ambition. My mom had a pretty good life in India. They're both engineers in real life. In the show, one's a doctor, just to shake things up.
You don't want to borrow too much from it. We don't want to be an autobiography. Yeah, I gotcha. No, it's fascinating.
So America and India are different in that way, and I wanted to explore it. And we bring it up. We say it outright. Like, America, you can do a little bit more here. You could be more free.
Right. And it's not even to single out India versus America or anything like that. It's this idea that we have systems in our life, we have cultures, we have biases, we have value systems that come from outside of us, right? And they tend to have an impact on what we feel like we are able to do. But what I'm hearing from you that I think is just really, really cool is that can be transcended, and not even just transcended, but like meshed into the fabric of the values and biases that already exist for the most part. As long as you have a confidence and a little bit of delusion, which I think is great.
It's the only way to proceed down, again, transformative change or something like that, confidence and delusion. And one could say it could go horribly wrong too. but that's the risk you take. And almost to say something that you said about the universal idea of it's not just Indian. Um, the fact that, like, when there's like, when I say catastrophic, lowercase c, it does not big. When there's catastrophic upheaval in somebody's life,
Hmm.
they are willing to make more chances to reinvent themselves, right? So when this whole family moves, each kid then says, "Hey, you completely upended our life. So why would I put down my roots exactly the same way it was before? This is an opportunity for me to change my trajectory because you already kind of changed our trajectory." So that debate between parent and child of like, because these children have no agency or no say in whether they move. But if you're gonna move me, my roots are gonna be different now, and that's my right. I can now reinvent myself, and I'm like, oh, that's a cool thing to explore. Where I think about this all the time. I'm like, kids have no rights. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they have
Wow.
no rights.
No.
They have no rights.
Yeah.
A parent's
Well,
like,
that
you're now moving across the country or across the world.
right. Oh my God, there's just so much you're touching on that I think is absolutely brilliant. So the idea of like, first, when that catastrophic event, lowercase c catastrophe event happens, you are forced to make a choice on some level. You
Right.
can either stick in the place of things are now worse and I'm going to live in what it should be and how I'm going to retain that and get it back, or yeah, now it gives me the freedom to have agency and the ability to move on. And a lot of the kids that we work with and a lot of the parents out there will resonate with this. Sometimes they feel so afraid to go, or they don't feel like they have the skill to go and do something that maybe is who they are, because they're like, well, I don't know what it's like over there. But then something happens, something big happens where there's really, no choice, no looking back. Everything is different. It's not the worst thing in the world in some cases if you
No.
can replant yourself and reroute yourself. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's an opportunity, right? And again, some people, the opportunity, it's not voluntary, and sometimes it's involuntary. But I understand that. I, I love an opportunity like that. Like I don't know. I don't, like when you mow down, or like when just like a whole, it's, you know what it is? It's the promise of just whatever. It's like blue skying it a little bit,
Yeah.
and it's like, God, it could be anything. It mostly isn't always anything, but anyway, that's
No,
my
I think exactly. It's this idea of, because on some level, your identity as a banker, right, investment banker, was blown up on the spot. Not in any major way. It was just a phone call with a friend.
yeah,
But it was like, but you were so ready for that shift. You saw the possibility, you immediately saw the blue sky. And too many people get caught up in like, well, no, I'm supposed to be going in this direction. It's supposed to
yeah,
look like this. This is who, my identity is supposed to be in some sense. And it creates a lot of panic for people.
yeah,
So out of my own life, I used to work in video games, and funny enough, because I work with gifted kids, really kind of nerdier kids. I'm speaking about myself as well. Tons of gaming involved. And so guess what? My old life and this new life have somehow worked together in ways I would have never predicted. And none of this would happen if I didn't get straight up fired
right,
from my job, where I'm like, well, now what? Like, this was what I had set out to do. This was
love
my
that,
plan.
love that.
And I think I'm like you a little bit. I'm delusional enough to be like, well, I could do something else and I'll figure it out as I go. And, whatever, I'll just go to school and da 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 da. Um, but it does take some level of confidence, your own skills that I can learn, or I can, adapt, or I can onboard myself into a new process. But it did free me in a sense. That little C catastrophe really freed me in a way
Yeah.
where now I had to look about like, okay, well, now what?
You you bring up a really good point where there are off ramps and on ramps in life that if you notice it, like for me, it was the transition between college and I'm like, well, this is the perfect time to do it. Like, if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't come along often, like I just got fired, this is the time to do it. The inertia of like you're already in the groove, and it's very hard to switch out. And this is one of the argument or the points I made to my parents. I'm like, they're like, go work for a little while as a banker. I'm like, but then I'm going to be in the groove. It's so much harder. And they understood that as engineers of like the inertia. I'm like, I'm already in the track. It's so much harder to get yourself out of the track. Where here I'm at like a fork. Like the fork is easier than getting out of a groove. And they're like, yeah, you're right. And so when things like that happen, take a moment and be like, is this an opportunity? I'm not saying the universe is telling you to do this, but is this an opportunity for me to use this fork in the road to change? Because these opportunities come maybe every 7 or 10 or 15 years, but use it, you know. Um, like my sister is like, she wants to move, and I'm like, she's like, I'm like, you have her youngest went to college. I'm like, you have it. It's right here. Do it.
It's here.
Do it now. Do it now. Do it now. And she didn't do it, and I know she'll not leave now. I'm like, you're gonna be there for another 20 years.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, but I can't find a house. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Sell it and rent something. Like you're not gonna. But these are gifts. These catastrophes, right?
But there's a skill right there. Your ability to attune yourself to be aware that like you've got to think about the when of it all. Like that matters. That is a variable that is not a given. Because a lot of people feel like, well, I can just change whenever. So that means I can just do it next week or the week after or the week after. And it's like sometimes you really got to listen to that point where it's like, whoa, everything just aligned up.
Yeah.
And this is it. Like here it is in front of me.
This is like the closest you'll get. You have to like I don't know what movie is this line from? Is like this is the closest the dream will get. Now we have to like go out and reach for it. It's in a pretty big movie where these people are going for something and they're like, is this right? It's like, no, this is the closest. Now we have to go. We have to close the gap. And it's because everything aligned in a way that it's we're not at the dream yet, but this is the closest. Let's go for it now. And you're right. The when of it is important because most people don't make big changes if the inertia of their life is moving, and almost like the extra, like again, this is why I'm such a nerd. The external force of physics acted upon you, stopped your inertia or altered your inertia. Take advantage of that. Take advantage of that. Instead of spending all your energy to get back into that groove,
right.
Or the groove is good,
Right. Well, that's the other thing. It's more of a point of evaluation of like, hold on, let me actually ask myself where I'm at and what I'm in. I want to make sure I'm getting all these parts because, and maybe had you gone on to be an investment banker, you would have found a way to integrate comedy and writing in some sense of the way. But you know what? It sounded like you just knew. You knew when you knew.
Right.
And I think as far as the when issue, I think there should be a little bit of relief for people to know that it's not all about, I have awareness that maybe I should do something different. And so that means right now, not necessarily, but you can be patient. Things will approach themselves. You can look at it from, how you want to build up towards things and just be ready for when the moment happens. And that might be more effective than trying to jam something through that isn't ready to go yet.
It's that's a really good point of when writers ask me what should I do, what's the best advice you give me, I go take every meeting. Like, I mean, there's a person who's a caterer on a Christopher Nolan movie, and they just do like the craft services. They put together the M&Ms and stuff for the cast, and you want to get lunch with them, yeah, you will take that meeting because you have no idea how that will connect you to this, to this, to this. It just happens. Take every meeting, and as a writer, have the script ready in a PDF in your email to email that person. If they should ever say, hey, send me your script, you're like, okay, I will. What you don't want is like, oh, I still need to polish it and I'm like weeks away from it. Can you give me your email and then I'll send it to you in 3 weeks when you forget who the heck I am. Like, have it, and this is to your opportunity. Like, if you have an idea to change your life, have some ideas of what it would take to do that. So if an opportunity comes along, again, whether it's out of the blue, oh yeah, I always wanted to open up a muffin shop. I know a little bit about like what it takes to, like, even though I'm not even close to opening a muffin shop, I know I need to find this and do that, and that you're ready to kind of at least move down the road versus like, okay, now what do I do? Like, opportunity, what is it? Opportunity favors the prepared, or something like that.
Yeah, it's or preparation.
Fortune favors the bold.
Yeah. It's probably from that movie we can't remember.
It is. There's this one movie that has every saying that we want to remember, Mark. If we could only remember what movie
We
that
could
is.
just know what that was. But you know what? That movie's going to hit us like a ton of bricks at some point, and we're going to be ready for it.
Right.
No, I love this. You know, it's funny. I work a lot with I was just going to say kids, but adults too that have an ADHD diagnosis. And the way Russell Barkley, kind of the godfather of ADHD, describes it, he goes, people with ADHD don't have a how problem because they actually know how to do all the things that they're struggling to do. They have a when problem. They struggle to do it when they need to be doing it. And there's this kind of, thing that they tell themselves, well, I'll just put that for later, but it's gone. It's too late. And so when you start to develop the skill around when to do things, I think there's a lot in how that creates opportunity or allows you to seize upon opportunity. And I love that that's the advice you give, like create more when moments, but be prepared for them. I think that's a great thing to say.
I like the way you said that. I'm gonna use that. It's like create more when moments by, like I said, take every meeting. That creates every when moment. You cannot predict these things. You cannot predict them. And then be prepared for when that strikes at the very least of what you want to do. Like if you want to be a writer, have a sample of your writing. Like that's nothing speaks more low of a writer who does not have any written material ready for.
Well, yeah, right. It shows a little bit of, what skill is having it read too. Yeah.
You're saying you're a writer. It's like, but you don't have anything written. I would never hire you, But,
yeah.
And it's that, like, I like that. Create more when moments. And then, this whole thing about the ADHD thing, I've heard this thing that, like, I can't remember what it is, but the procrastination and ADHD go hand in hand for this reason where there's this, gosh, I can't remember, like it was probably in that movie, this miraculous magical movie that has all the lessons in life that we need. And it's that like my wife would always get like so mad at herself for being a procrastinator, but then she realized she has ADHD, and she's like, oh, and the procrastination is not of all ADHD people, but there's a hallmark reasoning for why that happens. And now I can't remember, but it made her feel better. It's like, oh, I'm not a procrastinator. This is part of the thing.
It's not so in our practice there's a concept where procrastination is considered this like moral failing, like you just didn't do it when you should have done it, rather than the reality is I have challenges in what I need when I need them and a framework to make certain things happen that I've had to kind of cover up for years that I know how to do it, I can do it, rather than the reality of, no, it is straight up more challenging for me. And there are reasons for that, neurologically speaking, that I've had to compensate for years. And so I'm not a big fan of the term procrastination, because to me, that's more of a symptom of a real challenge, which is what I think you're speaking to on some level, that you understand there's more to it. And so again, even when we talk about creating more when moments, there's going to be a challenge in that as well of, do I know how to do that? Do I know what I need to do as my own person? I may not have that delusion plus confidence yet. And, there can be a challenge in creating it. So, but it's all in a process, right? And it starts from somewhere. And yes, you may have the framework for it, and you're a little more like you or me, where we're just like, okay, well, the whole world blew up. Let's go do something else. Or you feel absolutely stuck. And sometimes it's more a matter of getting clear and evaluating, okay, but what do I really want? Where am I going? Yeah. Cool. So tell me a little bit about, I want to go back a little bit to the Pradeeps of Pittsburgh, because like I said, I love the show, and it had one season. It was clearly set up to continue. Mm-hmm. I'm more out of curiosity as a fan, if you can talk a little bit about what happened.
Oh,
why is there no season 2?
Yeah. And this is just, comedy is in a place right now where these streamers are these global platforms, right? These streamers are very global. They need to make money all over the world. Comedy tends to play locally, right? And I've been a comedy writer for 2 decades now, and I've seen this, and I'm a business person, so I've seen the transformation of this business. What has happened is they took a product that worked very well locally, that made everybody money locally, and they turned it into this business model that needs to work globally to justify itself, right? That's really what has happened.
Okay.
This is a combination of the Marvelization of the world, the franchisization of the world, and the fact that now all networks, it's not the American Broadcasting Corporation, it's Amazon, which is global, it's Apple or it's Netflix, which is global. To justify their existence, they gotta clear these financial hurdles. Otherwise, it's not worth the whatever. It's not worth the headache for them, right?
Okay.
Because they're
Yeah.
like, we'll just sell socks instead. It's easier for us to do
Wow.
this instead of that. And that has happened to comedy. So comedy has fallen into a place where it's on Amazon. Amazon has had 4 comedies in the last year. None of them got renewed for a second season. And it's all because they're more into these big James Bond, Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
Jack
Oh,
Reacher,
no.
these big things that play globally, and drama and action play globally, comedy plays locally, and that is what has happened.
Oh my gosh.
Whatever
It's really
anybody
the
else tells you.
it's the antithesis of what we're talking about today. It's like oh no, we need everything to be in a fit that applies to everybody, but it loses the individuality of it. It loses the heart, the soul of, what
Yeah.
one person's trying to do, and how much that can have huge value and effect on other people. Whew.
Of course, and that's the kind of thing is like all these mom and pops got rolled up into these these chain stores, but the mom and pops were profitable, right? It's just and again, this is my anti-corporate screed, but the mom and pops were profitable for mom and pop and the locals. But as soon as the corporation bought that mom and pop up, they're like, we can make more money with lower margins if we just turn it all into a McDonald's, and that's what happens. So it's like it's enriching this one corporation instead of just, again, here we go. I sound like a Marxist. Instead of having a distributed system where a little bit of money goes to everyone, they're like, no, all of it goes to Jeff Bezos, all of it.
Wow.
That's what's happened.
Yeah. Oh my God. I didn't realize what I was just opening up there, but yeah, now I'm getting pissed.
And I say again, I always think they're like, well, V just sour grapes. I'm like, no, I'm a business person. I went to the Wharton School of Business. I understand this is how they do it because this is what I was trained to do. This is
right.
If I went to investment banking, I'd be like, hey, we need to raise $2 billion to buy up all the local TV stations and all the local studios because we're going to roll it up into this giant media conglomerate. That's what I would do. On the other side is what I would have been doing. I would have been perpetrating the very crime that has been perpetrated upon me.
Against you, yes. Talk about your other path, man. Holy smokes.
That's why I think about it every day, Mark.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's what I would have done,
Whoa.
And so it's a little bit. I'm the inside man on this, and that's why in my calls with them, I just always express my disappointment through that lens. I say, I know what you have done. You've
good
taken
for you.
a perfectly good business model. I'm not, Cesar Chavez here. God bless Cesar Chavez. I'm Monsanto. I'm the giant agra company that's making seeds, Terminator seeds, because I'm like, that's what I would have done too. I'm Dr. Lecter. I know how serial killers work, and therefore I'm helping Clarice Starling figure this out.
Well, what an interesting concept to know within you have your own arch nemesis. You know what I mean? Holy smokes,
said,
man.
Well said. I'm Clarice and Lecter, right?
I love that idea.
It's awful.
Holy smokes.
I'm also the girl in the well,
Yeah.
I'm all of these things. And I'm like, gosh darn it. But that's why I'm so disappointed, because I'm like, the show is so good and it was so well reviewed and like number one, and LA Times put it on the front page of their entertainment section. They're like, this is such a good show. This is like reinventing family, not reinventing, but like doing it in a new way. And all it was this isn't Lord of the Rings, so we're not going to do it again. And I'm like, wow, darn it.
Support local. I don't know. That's just what I want to say after all that. But that is, I feel you. Well, thanks for sharing that. So as far as where you are now, you've created a path for yourself in a really cool way. Is it okay if I ask what's next for you, or what you're working on, or anything you want to share?
Great. Yeah, I'm working on. It's funny. I'm working on some comedies, but I'm also working to expand my body of work into some thriller stuff, some more global. I'm trying to do some things in India right now, because I know India has a massive production, and Bollywood has created this huge ability to create content in India, and yet there still nobody has figured out how to do this thing where I'm like, no, just start creating more content in India. Like they do it in Budapest, they do it in Hungary, they do it in Poland, they shoot all kinds of stuff there. Why haven't we figured out this India thing? So I'm creating content that could play for the Indian market, but also the global market. So to your point, to my point earlier, I'm doing more thriller things,
Yeah.
more serialized things. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm transforming my comedy career into a more global career that has still comedy elements, but expanding, you know, what I'm developing and what I'm producing to, you know, evolve with the conditions. And that's the thing. Sometimes you're like, I
Yeah.
wish comedy was around more, and it is, but I know other things are around even more, and I have to evolve and adapt.
Well, but the thing is, I don't hear any sense that you're sacrificing or compromising yourself, because it just sounds like you're adding more, it's unfolding more, you're finding other pieces of you that are also you know what I mean? Like you're not
Yeah.
like selling out, you're just
No.
expanding. And again, to me, that's the thing we have to underline here today, because people get so fixated on I'm this thing and I'm this thing alone. And if you really go blue sky with it, you are so much more. And yes, it means you might have to forge a very individual, unique path that is designed specifically for you,
Yeah.
but it should always be you. And that's
Right.
what I think is so cool about what you're doing and what you will continue to do.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. And you know, it's inspiring to talk to people who, you know, like again, like I said, the hopelessly gifted. I would like to consider myself hopelessly gifted, and
Then you are.
yeah, see, that's what that
Yeah.
the delusion and confidence, right? That's all it is.
I love it.
And to your point is if you bring your strengths, you know, you reflect on what can I bring to this. I'm motivated. I'm a talented writer. I know that because I've
You have the
written
skill,
books.
right?
I have the
Yep.
skill, and I am a fan of entertainment. So I can now open up my window, and I'm like, I was working in this, but I'm like, let me look at what else I love. Can I? And sometimes I'm like, can I just replicate that thing? Like I like that. Let me just copy that and then start modifying it to make it my voice, make it my thing. And I find there's nothing wrong with that. It's how the Beatles became the Beatles. They just started playing songs they liked, and then they're like,
Yeah.
well, let's change them up to be our songs, and then they're the Beatles. You know, if that could happen to the Beatles, certainly that could happen to Vijal Patel.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, man. You know, it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's just about taking a wheel you know, really like, and then, yeah, modifying it to how you want to present it into the world.
Yeah.
Oh, man, we're getting deep. I love
We're
it.
getting deep.
So, well, you know, as we're getting deep, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping up the show. But I have, you know, really enjoyed, you know, getting to know a lot more about you and to really understanding how you view the world and what is really the things that make things work for you that I really believe that a lot of people can learn from. And so I really want to thank you for your time and being with us today. And I'm very excited to see what's next for you as things come out. How can people find you? What's a way that people can follow you if they're interested?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, which is I think my only social media presence is at the Vijal, TheVijal. And yeah, and then watch the Pradeeps of Pittsburgh and go to my IMDb page and see what I'm doing next.
I love it.
That's it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again. And yes, watch the Pradeeps of Pittsburgh. It's a great show. And hold on, let me take a pause here. And so, yeah, I want to thank our guests one more time. And for all of those who are listening out there, if anything we talked about today brought up any questions, something that you want to know more about, something we touched on that you want us to dive deeper into, please go to hopelesslygifted.com, fill out the form there, and send us a question so we can answer it on the air. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.